tell people what I do, that I'm an artist, I can get a few different reactions, but what I want to talk about are the people who imply in some way that they actually wanted to pursue art, but obviously hadn't. There's usually a root cause, a proverbial bump in the road, that a lot of people face. And I mean beyond the excuse of I've never tried or I can't draw a straight line to save my life. When you get down to it, what people really mean is that they don't feel creative. They feel they lack inspiration or feel that they just don't have a unique voice to share. You could look at some artists and wonder, how do they do it? Where did they come up with these ideas? Sure, yeah. I'll be honest, I know a dozen people who live in a fantasy world, and they have so many ideas and places and characters floating around in their head that they feel inspired to tell the stories that play out in their mind. So it might surprise you if I said, I don't either. I'm not very creative. I sure as hell don't have a single original thought in my head. But that doesn't prevent me from creating. Really, it's almost the exact opposite. It is simply my desire to create that pushes me to find creativity. The truth is, for every one person who lives in a world built of stories and characters, there are at least a dozen other artists who have to work to find ideas to draw and paint. So what does that mean for me? A person who can't help but create, a person who gets cranky and irritated when they can't draw. I have to create. I live, breathe, and eat. I can't not create art. You might be thinking that means when I sit down to a blank page, something just flows out of me, and lines and gestures come forth from my mind and spill onto the page. No, I really need help. A lot of help. And when I say I need help, if I have nothing to go off of, my mind goes blank, and the blank page just stares back at me. So if you're one of those people who says they want to create art, but they don't have the creativity, I'm right there with you. Neither do I. So what's the difference between you and me? I put myself to work, I guess. I try to not make excuses. I go out into the world and try to find ideas. And to be honest, my refuge, my saving grace, the only thing that allows me to create are references. To some people, using a reference means that you aren't a real artist. You aren't good at what you do, and you should probably just give up. I hear this from way too many people. Their parents, their friends, they don't believe they could be a good artist because they're using references. Ooh, scary. For some reason, and God knows why, people don't understand what art is or how it's created or how it's used. If you don't think people should use references, then I'm sorry, but you're an idiot. If you're here to complain that real artists don't use reference, that you have a sister, son, a friend, a relative of any kind, and they want to pursue art and you tell them they suck because they're using references, you aren't just an idiot, you're a 100% certified asshole. Here is your diploma, you're wrong. So very humbly, terribly wrong. With that rant over, how do I go about finding and using references? What references can and can't I use? My secret weapon is Pinterest, and this isn't sponsored or anything, but this is really where I go to find creativity. You may find something else that better suits your needs, but this one is perfect for me. Over the course of, years, I've spent countless hours collecting, organizing, and pinning hundreds of images into dozens of boards. I have boards that range from a particular artist I love to boards of general ideas like action poses to things as vague as inspiration. Besides getting ideas by checking out how other artists approach something, I usually jump right into that inspiration board I mentioned, where I pin basically anything that has ever sparked even the slightest amount of inspiration. I look at it, I think it's cool. Then I go and find, another dozen images that spark my interest. And I find ways to mix and match these things that really get me going. When you're first starting out, you hear horror stories about artists whose work has been stolen or they have been sued for using another person's artwork. Maybe you know somebody who stole someone else's work, or you know someone who had their artwork stolen. And besides the common courtesy of not passing someone else's work off as your own, there are two main priorities. When is it and when isn't it okay to use copyrighted work? This sounds like an obvious answer. You just don't. But there is a loophole here. If you want to study another person's artwork and thus are going to recreate it in some way, that's absolutely fine, as long as you don't sell it or pass it off as your own. If you copied another person's artwork, give credit and don't sell it. If you blatantly used another person's images, give credit and don't sell it. If you've studied someone else's work, give credit and don't sell it. You can do basically anything you want with art as long as you give credit to the references you used or the images you've borrowed. You don't take money away from another artist, and you don't sell their work as your own. Once you start selling your artwork, you really want to make the references you use blend in among all the others that, for the most part, the original influence can't be directly spotted in the finished work, or, at least try to be subtle about it. So, in the off chance you want to recreate a scene from a singular image, and you feel passionate about this, you really want to replicate somebody else's work, ask the author of the original artwork. They may give you permission to do so. So that's the basics of how you can and can't use references. It sounds funny, but that's the secret to creativity, inspiration, and originality. It might not come to you naturally, and if that's the case, you just have to figure out how to go and find it. You have to work for your creativity. You have to work for your art. If it's something you're passionate about, this is something that should be easy. It should be fun. It's the advantage of living in the day and time that we do. We don't have to go out and find people. We don't have to have them model for us necessarily, although drawing from life is really a fantastic way to work. But, we have the opportunity of the internet, magazines. There's so much out there for us to absorb, take in, remix, and use in our own work. So why not take and use this advantage to help you create something? There is one other really big factor that I haven't mentioned yet. And it becomes a very big advantage to all artists, especially as you move forward and you're creating more work. You see, the more work you create, the more ideas you come across, and you'll start to be able to filter through the good ones. And as you're creating, you'll actually be coming up with new ideas. So you may have used a dozen references, and you might spot one or two things that maybe don't work for the image you're working on, but could be used in another illustration or, a piece of artwork. So you can start taking those things and combining them to create another idea, another drawing or painting. And, you can come up with 2 or 3 other ideas before you've even finished the first one. And I mean, doesn't that sound pretty cool? That will be all for today. Thanks for taking the time to look at this video. If you liked the video and would like to see more, please comment below. Hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. While you're at it, share this video with all of your artist friends. See you next time.